Hailing from the mountains of East Tennessee, today's guest was immersed in the world of great guitar playing from an early age. With a deep connection to the instrument through his uncle, renowned Martin historian and luthier John Arnold, he had the rare opportunity to watch and learn from legends like Norman Blake and Doc Watson. Today, we're going to welcome Jonathan Epley to the podcast. Jonathan blends the traditions of bluegrass and folk, later influences of jazz, electric slide guitar, blues, and progressive rock, and his approach to music is both rooted and adventurous, bridging genres with a unique and dynamic style. He's also the guitarist and section leader of the rhythm section in the United States Army Field Band, the Jazz Ambassadors, and looking forward to talking with him today. So, Jonathan, thanks for taking the time today. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks, Abe. Appreciate it.
So, I was fortunate enough to see you live. There's so many great videos of you playing on YouTube, and when someone watches one of those videos, they can see how extraordinary you are. And I was actually fortunate enough to see you when I was in Annapolis last time, playing with I think Pat Shook's quartet at
hmm
49 West.
Yeah, with Amy Shook and Frank Russo.
Correct,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. It's really
So,
cool. Those guys totally hooked me up as soon as I got to the area, and they've been very good friends for like over 10 years.
how long are you living in the area now currently?
So I got to this area like mid 2011, so it's been over a decade now, which is hard to believe.
So when you're coming back from a tour with the Jazz Ambassadors, the music is, very specific in terms of you have certain arrangements and charts you have to play with that band. And then when you can go play quartet with players like that, is that just like, oh, almost like taking like a sip of a nice cold beer after a nice tour like that?
Totally, that's a great analogy. So, Pat and I, Pat Shook, the tenor player in that group, sit next to each other again for over 10 years, have written lots of music for each other, and really understand each other's playing and ourselves as people at a pretty high level because we spend so much time together. So, sometimes we'll just do group improvisation, and it's just kind of like we become like one thing. And I haven't experienced that with very many people, but you're literally living with this person all the time and playing music, writing music together. Super special thing. So yeah, when we get a chance to kind of stretch out, it's a lot of fun because obviously with the big band thing, as a guitar player, a lot of your roles are kind of real clear and specific to you doing this here, this there. There's not a lot of space to explore things, because like you're trying to like stick to the show time frame. So it's great to just have no rules, no plan, and just go out and have fun.
Yeah, the show is like a machine that needs to run. There's so much that goes into it. People don't realize all the logistics. When did you join the band? Do you remember what made you want to try out?
Yeah, so I joined the army in 2009 to move to Germany, and I did that job for a couple of years before the Jazz Ambassadors opened up. And my original goal, I was coming from Nashville, Tennessee, so I was just going to go to Germany for a couple of years and then just come back to Tennessee after having spent some time in Europe. But in the middle of that, this gig opened up, and I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. I watched some clips of the band online, and I was like, this I could do this for a while. So I put it in the packet for the audition, won the audition, and that was 2011. So I'd only been in the army for about 2 years when I got this job.
So right now, yeah, so 14 years. How long do you see yourself staying in that position? Like, 20 years, I know it's typically standard what people do, but do you see yourself, continuing after that if we're looking forward?
I have no idea right now. I really need to figure that out. Like I've thought about it a lot, and I'm trying to like really decide what I want to do next because the army thing is so like it kind of like everything in my life is kind of like around that's like my compass. So removing that from the equation is it's going to take some time to figure out and like geographically where do I want to go? Like I kind of like to move back closer to my family in the mountains. There's Asheville, North
You're from
Carolina's.
like near Smoky Mountain, Tennessee, that near
Yeah,
there?
yeah, yeah. Not too far from Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg and all that stuff. So Asheville, North Carolina has a pretty cool music scene.
I'm
I
going
wouldn't
there
mind.
next month.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. Sorry,
So
yeah.
that's a spot that I could see myself kind of like settling in. Could be close to family. Still, the Charlotte airport can go everywhere. It's not too far away and can just kind of head to 95 and go up, and you're on the East Coast and kind of hit all these spots that I normally am at now.
Well, you're from very close to Nashville, basically. When you were growing up, were you going down to the Main Street areas and checking out live music, or was that something that was a special thing at all for you?
You're talking about Nashville?
Nashville.
Yeah, I mean, it was like 3.5 hours away. I mean,
Oh,
Tennessee's a
okay.
long state, so like,
Okay.
it was definitely a special. I did go do that some when I was in high school, um, but because like, I mean, they did the best they could do at my high school as far as music, but it wasn't really set up for anyone trying to become a professional musician or even go to college to play music. We had a marching band and we had a concert band, and we tried to have a jazz band.
Were there
um,
were there competitions with that high school program you were in?
we did some marching band competitions, but you know, it's, there just wasn't enough interest or resources for jazz stuff, and I didn't know anything about jazz really until I had a saxophone teacher, Randy Missamore. He kind of helped me learn a lot about how jazz works and how the music kind of is put together. Because I was more of a saxophone player, just because that's what I could take lessons on. I took very few formal lessons on guitar until I got to college. But that's kind of when I realized, oh, I can take all this stuff. It's the same thing. And I was just better at guitar. So that stuff kind of just translated quickly.
So you're playing saxophone in the music program while, at the same time doing a little bit of guitar. And then you go to college and really start, I guess that's where formal lessons began, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. There was a guy in a town not too far away that kind of taught me the basics of like reading music on guitar. Because I mean, I basically was just into like kind of shreddy stuff, and it was more of a technical, fun thing. And then all the bluegrass guys, I mean, none of those people read music or even thought about music that way. Um, so when I heard people play, it was just like, I just want to do that. So I just
Did you
kind of
like
like,
the players like Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, people like that, or,
oh yeah, I checked those guys out. I mean, Jason Becker was kind of a big moment for me hearing him. Um, First time I heard Dream Theater was kind of a big deal for me. So all those kind of groups, that was like my intro to like, oh, so all this like the bluegrass guys could all super shred, like I mean, super clean players, and then hearing people using that same kind of technique for electric guitar, it was just kind of a mind bending.
well,
Andy
let me
Wood is another guy like that like he started as a bluegrass guy. I don't know if you ever heard him play, but he's from my area and he's ridiculous.
well, let that be a lesson to the audience listening, to what Jonathan just said, because he's the guitarist and the jazz ambassadors in the U.S. field band. You got to be tremendous to do that gig. But he said that when he heard Dream Theater, that was a huge moment for him. So these are like the unique stories that make the artist who they are. Not just
Totally.
been, oh, I grew up just listening to jazz, blah, 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 sort of thing. So it's really special.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like music is music. Like good music is if there's something that strikes some interest in you or creates like that kind of kernel of curiosity that sends you on another path. Like to me, that's what it's about, and it's like that ever learning journey, like keeping that childlike just you know interest in the music to where like the curiosity never ends. To me, that's what it's about.
I mean, that's a great outlook to have, but I think it's an outlook sometimes people get to when they go through the struggles of what it means to be a professional musician. And there are certain obstacles you have to overcome. Did you have any of that? Because, some of the best players, certainly have those things, even if they're small.
Oh, totally. Like when I when I started college, Delfeo Marsalis, the trombone player of the brothers, was in grad school at University of Louisville with me, and I mean, he just wore me out. That dude was like, because I didn't know anything about jazz. I could play guitar, but like phrasing, tunes, I was like starting at the bottom of the barrel, and he never let up on me the whole time that we were there together. So I was there with him for 2 years, and there's a lot of times when I hated having to deal with him and talk to him, but he helped me so much. And like I look back at it now, and it's just like, this guy helped me out a ton, and I didn't understand how much knowledge he had, just because I was just unaware and naive.
Are you guys
But
still in touch?
I'm trying to think the last time we spoke. I think we ran into each other at a Jazz Education Network conference a couple of years ago, maybe like around just the end of COVID. But yeah, he probably doesn't think about me very much, but he's in my head all the time. So it was very helpful for me as having like a kind of mentor that was more like old school, where like I don't think he ever told me I sounded good ever. He would always just tell me what I did wrong. But he still like hired me to play with his band before, so like I knew that he at least was interested enough to like have me play, and that was a huge deal for me. Um, so yeah, I look back on that fondly now, but my first 2 years of college were hard.
My mentor was so mean. He was like, "Don't tell anybody you study with me because you're so bad that they're gonna think that I'm doing that or something."
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, I don't think he ever said anything that bad to me. I think he could tell that like I could figure this out, but like I just didn't have it, didn't have the knowledge, had not met the right people or heard the right stuff. So he just kind of like set me on a path that by the time I got out of undergrad, I I felt like I had kind of like found my way.
Well, he had told me
There's a
that,
couple
but it
other
was like
guys at school like that.
a funny way. He was like mean, like yelling, like "You better not tell anybody," like it was so. There is a difference between being hard on you in a good way, than the other way.
Right.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like he was good in that way. He wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I mean he can read people well too. So like I think he helped me a lot. And that I watched him, and there was another guy, Gray Mayfield, there as an alto player, and I would just watch them communicate with people and the way they talked about stuff and the way they thought about music and explained it. It's just like parts of those little gems just kind of clicked with me. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And I
Well,
would just kind of like keep that.
do you have people who reach out to you via email or social media because there is such great content of you playing on YouTube? Do people reach out to you ever and want to take lessons or anything like that?
Yeah, sometimes it's not like all the time, but there's a lot of people that have questions about slide or about incorporating jazz ideas into other styles of music, which is kind of like I feel like that's kind of my bag at this point, is taking all my knowledge of jazz oriented things, whether it be harmony, melody, rhythmic stuff, and then being able to apply them seamlessly into other styles of music. So if people want a little bit of that, um, not like the guitar shred community, there's so many people that like have all this facility on the instrument and have a very limited scope of rhythm and harmony that they're pulling from to use all these skills they developed.
I want to talk to you
So
also about navigating the challenges of being, on the road, touring as a musician with such a hectic schedule. Also, you got to stay warmed up, that sort of thing. And a lot of musicians get very burnt out. They have a challenge, but you seem to be very centered in that way. So can you just talk to us a little bit about touring with the band, how you navigate those challenges, what you do for yourself mentally, physically, just to avoid the burnout because you've been there for a while.
sure, yeah. So like having some sort of practice routine in the morning. So like I'll play through like Bach partitas and sonatas, or um, I'll just after just basic warming up my hands, I'll just put a metronome on 2 and 4 and play through some tunes and just kind of get my brain moving. So I kind of go back and forth between the box stuff and playing over tunes to kind of get myself going. And then I usually have some sort of music I need to work on for gigs when I get back. So that'll always be, I'll just kind of gradually work through that stuff. Um, and that kind of like keeps me centered and grounded as far as like, okay, I'm going to be on the road for 30 days. I know I've got these 4 gigs coming up the next month when I get back. If I have the music for that already, I'll start looking at it and kind of just like getting into it. Um, and then it's just like setting up enough time out of the day. Like, because when we're traveling, we may not have a lot of time once we check in the hotel before we get to the gig. So sometimes I practice on the bus. And that's the whole thing unto itself, like getting like your arms and legs set to where like you can like play and then you hit a big bump. And so I've gotten used to that. And everyone has a different kind of like way they go about doing that. But for me, it's just like, I just love playing guitar, and that's what keeps me everything else kind of like going. And then keeping like good food and trying to like find decent places to eat, which can also be a challenge. But that's a huge thing for me. Like if I'm eating crappy food, that can like totally kill my productivity for a couple of days in a row,
Oh yeah,
unfortunately.
I agree.
But I mean, it's part of the struggle of being on the road, and I've gotten better at figuring that out. Because like when I first joined, it was like, oh, everybody's like out drinking and having pizza every night, and I'm like, whoa, I don't think I can keep doing this. You know, I need good food to keep me going. So
I know, I agree with you. How long did it take you before you realized you need to change some things about those habits? Because did it take like, a couple weeks or months? Like when did you realize I need to start eating healthy, that sort of thing?
I think it was like probably the third year I was in the band where I started to approach 30 because like, I was like 20, I think I was 27 when I got in the group. And my metabolism still like kind of took care of all that stuff for a long time. And then I think when I was 29, 30 is when it hit me. It was like, oh, so maybe if I put better fuel in my body, this will kind of work a little better. Of course, I would still have like, if everybody's going out to grab some pizza, or if we're in Chicago, you're going to get deep dish. That's actually kind of an aside. One of the best things about this gig is like going to Maine and getting a lobster roll, going out to the West Coast and like having like salmon or halibut. It's like it's I've had so many amazing food experiences on the road. Of course, there's also in your middle of Kansas and your options are like Wendy's and Applebee's. So it runs the full gamut.
So that's so funny that you say Wendy's or Applebee's. I I know that when you're on these tight schedules, like you said, you have to kind of go right to the gig almost right when you check into the hotel. Like there may not even be time for a shower.
Sometimes, I mean, our operations team tries to book time to do that, but sometimes like vehicle breaks down or we get in a lot of traffic. Like you can't plan for stuff like that. So
Have you
we're
guys
always
ever
kind of
missed a gig because of the traffic or anything like that?
I don't think we've ever missed one. We've been late before. It's
How late?
happened uh 10 minutes
Oh, okay, that's not too bad.
because we always plan to be there way early. Our setup team's there 2.5 hours early. We're at the gig in uniform, ready to start playing an hour to 45 minutes early. So when you build that in, if stuff does go bad, we're still going to get there. So there's been a couple of times where it's been sketchy, but we've always done the performance.
Are there times where you see the schedule and it's like, oh, I really don't want to go back there, but then there's times like, oh, this is going to be good. I'm excited for this, or is it just like we're on the road?
I feel like pretty much every tour area we have, there are definitely some diamonds in the rough in all of them that I can like look forward to. Like, oh, on this day, we're going to be in this town. I know there's this pub or there's this restaurant that is awesome. So, like, I try to look forward to those days. And then some of the rougher spots in the middle, that kind of helps just push you through.
I know it's important to have stuff to look forward to.
Definitely.
So right now, like, what's the schedule, or when are you going to be on the road next? Because I assume you're from home right now.
Yeah, yes. I'm at home right now. So I think beginning of April, we'll be heading out through the upper Midwest, Iowa, Ohio, uh, Wisconsin, Michigan, that area.
Um, the Army has such a special thing in terms of the benefits you get, medical, all that stuff, which is a luxury. A lot of musicians don't have, and it can really hurt them financially, that sort of thing. Do you think about these things, about how lucky you are?
Oh
That's
yeah, I feel blessed every day. Like that's something that honestly, you were talking about like having like blocks in the road or kind of like trying to keep your momentum and your like focus going. It's like I have an amazing job and opportunity every day, and also the people in the band that I play with are great. Like
oh
not just
yeah.
great musicians, but they're great people. So going and experiencing all of all of our travels together as a group, like I mean, it's priceless. I mean, these are people that are going to be my friends
Are
forever.
you are you particularly close with like one or two people that you could say they're like some of your best friends, or just very, very good friends?
Thomas Davis has been my roommate the majority of the time I've been in the band.
What's he
Uh,
play?
he's the lead trumpet player in the group.
Mhm. Okay.
So he's probably now that because Pat Shook, the tenor player, is leaving. Um, that's going to be he's going to and we've been in around the same amount of time. He's a little bit less than me. Um, so I would say that's probably my best friend that's in the band. But the entire rhythm section is like we love hanging out, playing together, doing stuff, and
Oh,
piano
Anthony, well,
player.
Anthony's one of my best friends, you know?
Oh yeah, he's great. And we do lots of gigs when we're home together. I think we're playing tomorrow.
Oh,
We do
great.
we do a lot of duo gigs, um, and he's just like always open to trying stuff, and he's got that mad scientist vibe. So we have fun just trying things, and we have the flexibility to do it. It's like that's incredible for me, and I never forget that ever. It's something that literally comes across my mind every day.
Yeah, that's certainly important though to have those friends. I remember I used to work on cruise ships, which is probably the opposite of the army, but nonetheless, you're still away. And the times I had friends that I was close with, it was like made the life so much better. But like the last contract, I had like no friends that it was just really sad in that way. So these things are
Yeah.
important too to make your life better on the road.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony and I are both into like finance stuff, and we're talking about that stuff all the time, and it's just like uh, Thomas and I both love bourbon. And so when we're traveling around, we'll check out local stores to see if they have any unique bourbon. We'll do tastings on the road. Like, we genuinely enjoy each other's company, which is not always the case.
For sure.
So it's yeah, there have been very few times where I've been like, what am I doing with myself in this job? There's a couple of times it's happened, but it's not very often. Most of the time it's just like going to play great big band gigs with really good musicians. So I can't complain.
That's awesome because I'm sure over the years there's been players who are literally thinking exactly the opposite you are. Not that they're in the band now, but there probably have been who are just like, I got to get out of here, you know?
Yeah, I mean, every group goes through, I think, emotional ups and downs, and different people have different chemistry together, which can be volatile. Some like really highs and really lows. We're more just like kind of middle of the road most of the time. There's not a lot of huge emotional charge things that happens. We all just everyone's kind of chill, which is fun.
That's great. No, no, Jonathan, it's been such a pleasure to sit down and talk to you. And uh, you're you're the right man for being that job. Not just but you're so mentally balanced, and you got it together that there's no wonder you could play the way you do. So and I say that with the utmost respect. So thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thanks, Abe. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.